and welcome to the first full day of the Caribbean Investment Forum 2023. Are you all happy to be here today? Yeah, okay, let's get some round of applause. I'm concerned about coffee, and so you're making me consider that perhaps we need to have some floating around the room. I do see a station at the back, so you have no excuses today. I expect full participation as we look forward to a phenomenal day. Did you enjoy the reception yesterday? Yes. Did anyone have a chance to make some new connections or meet some new people? Yeah, I see some nods around the room. Well, we hope that you will continue to do that today. Of course, we have brought over 500 people together here. There are some online, and we're looking forward to a really exciting day. We're going to be talking about AI and how it works for economic development. We'll be sharing some things on sustainable financing, learning about renewable energy, the revolution, and so much more. Are you ready? If you're ready, we're going to try this. We did it yesterday. If you were here, you will know what to do. If not, you will catch on throughout the day. When I do my hand here, I'd like you to say C. And when I put my hand at the center, I'd like you to say I. And when I come to my far right, I'd like you to say F. All right, so you'll get it throughout the day, but just to make sure you're ready for the energy, the excitement, the learning, the sharing that will take place, let's try it together. 1, 2, 3. All right, C is not ready, but I'm going to sit over there in a second, bring some energy to that side of the room. Before we do that, we want to get the day started by welcoming the man with the plan. I, of course, am talking about Deodat Maharaj. He, as you know, is the reason that we're here. In his role as Executive Director of the Caribbean Export Development Agency, he's brought this vision to life. Please give him a round of applause as he comes very briefly to just tell us good morning, and then we will have our Deputy Prime Minister.
Hi, good morning, everyone. A warm welcome again to our first full day at the Caribbean Investment Forum 2023. Anastasia, thank you so much for a splendid job. Honorable Deputy Prime Minister, honorable ministers, distinguished guests, our partners from Republic Bank, CAF Bank, and CDB, a warm and a special welcome to you. Without your support, this wouldn't be possible, so thanks so much again. At the Caribbean Investment Forum 2023, the emphasis is to create business, as we at Caribbean Export provide a platform for business to engage with business, to create business. As I said yesterday, less talk and more business. So with no other words, just thank you so much, and I look forward to hearing from the Honorable Deputy Prime Minister of the Bahamas, Chester Cooper, who has been a really wonderful partner. And before he comes, please join me in recognizing his contribution and the contribution of his team with a warm round of applause. Deputy Prime Minister, thank you so much.
Ladies and gentlemen, he's living the example. Less talk, more business. Thank you so much to Mr. Maharaj for that welcome. And now, our first presenter of the morning, coming to really share on plans not just for the Bahamas, but for the Caribbean, and his vision for the type of future we could have, is an extraordinary gentleman. What he's been able to do in business in the Bahamas and the world really ought to be taken note of, and so I want to encourage you to get his new book. He's now a new author, but he also sits in a seat where he's looking to bring more investment to the Bahamas, to expand our tourism offerings, to connect us to the world through aviation. Please give a round of applause to our opening speaker this morning. We are welcoming the Honorable Chester Cooper, Deputy Prime Minister of the Bahamas and Minister of Tourism, Aviation, and Investment. Give him a round of applause as he comes.
Good morning, everybody. I hope you've had your coffee after a fantastic reception last evening. And I hope that you will have a few moments at the end of this conference to enjoy a bit of the islands of the Bahamas. I want to thank did that for this extraordinary event, and his team at CEDA for pulling it off in fine form. And I ask you to give him a round of applause. I also want to thank the team from the Bahamas Investment Authority and the Bahamas Ministry of Tourism, Investments, and Aviation, who have partnered closely to ensure that this is a successful event and to ensure that you have a great time whilst you're here. So the Ministry of Tourism team would be outside at the desk. If you need anything, do let us know. And if you have any issues whatsoever, if your soup is cold, if there's too much pepper in your conch salad, if the speakers talk too long, you blame Deodat and not the Ministry of Tourism. So that's all on him. So I'm delighted to be here. And again, I welcome you to the Bahamas. This forum is long overdue. Beyond what we will accomplish over the course of this conference, I believe we must emphasize the need to continue to do more business. I want to emphasize the crucial importance of the Caribbean region coming together, uniting our strengths, and harnessing our abundant resources to forge firmer ties for the betterment of our economic, educational, and social development. In a world marked by constant change and challenges, it is only by collaboration as a united Caribbean family that we can realize our full potential and secure a brighter future for all. Economic development is at the heart of our collective aspirations. The Caribbean region is rich in resources, both natural and human, and we possess the ingredients for our further economic prosperity. However, our true potential can only be unlocked when we work together. By banding together, we can form a formidable economic force, and during this conference, we will explore how AI can revolutionize data collection, analysis, marketing, and strategic deployment for better understanding and profiling of visitors to the shores of our Caribbean countries. We will also delve into the realms of trade, foreign direct investment, innovation, sustainable financing in a post-COVID Caribbean, greening the Caribbean, the renewable energy revolution, and promoting investment in logistics and transportation. To attract investments, we must showcase our commitment to innovation, sustainability, and stability. AI can assist in this endeavor by improving business operations, reducing costs, and enhancing overall efficiency. Innovation should be a driving force in our economic strategies, and we must foster an environment that encourages startups, research, and the development of innovative solutions. This Caribbean Investment Forum, therefore, is a great opportunity for all of us. It is, of course, an initiative of CEDA, as we mentioned before, which is an institution as a part of the Caribbean region, and we are delighted as the government of the Bahamas to partner. It cannot be denied that many decades have passed in pursuit of the primary objectives for which CARICOM itself was established. And many, many people have committed their life's work to achieving those objectives. The original Treaty of Chaguaramas called for member states to collectively achieve various economic goals, including improved standards of living, full employment, sustainable economic development, trade expansion, enhanced competitiveness, increased productivity, and greater economic leverage when dealing with external entities. These principles are fundamentally related to economic issues that could empower our region, given our intertwined history and our shared aspirations for the future. At its very core, CARICOM was created to establish a common market where Anglo-Caribbean countries could engage in trade, travel, and work without obstacles. We have made some progress, but we are far from achieving those aims, even after including our brothers and sisters whose primary language is not English. It was never meant to develop a singular national identity or culture. It was meant to drive forward the progress of those who left behind as colonies abandoned by Europe. The same Europe that, despite differences in development, geography, and language, managed to develop more than 50 years ago a highly successful union that formed a single powerful currency, unrestricted travel, trade, and work amongst its member nations. They did all of this whilst preserving their individual national identities and not speaking the same language. So we gather here today attempting on how to navigate the same EU that thinks nothing of punishing our small countries that develop financial services sectors from scratch that will devastate our economies. So yes, we must continue to innovate. And frankly, I offer that CARICOM's true potential has perhaps been squandered due to factors like nationalism and sometimes xenophobia. We have the solutions, I believe, in the Caribbean through investments, through collaboration, through relationships, and through doing business to drive the objectives that we set out to achieve, even as private sector individuals and entities. Too many of us as leaders have let concerns about domestic political repercussions keep us apart, rather than forging closer international bonds that would be to the benefit of all of our citizens, beyond the limited term scope of elections. But as regional leaders, we have not done enough, and we have not done a good enough job in explaining to our people our position in the world, and that when we are fractured, we are small, and we're easily overlooked when we are small. But when we speak with one voice, we are mighty. And this is why forums like this is so critical, to get us all on the same page as how to collaborate and how to engage cross-sector investments and cross-border investments throughout our region. Leaders like our Prime Minister, the Honorable Philip Davis, and others have gone out into the world and demanded that the Caribbean be considered in the global conversations on climate change, as well as on unfair practices by those who take no responsibility for our condition. The world, as it starts to pay more attention, cannot look back and see a fractured Caribbean of people of common history who cannot forge a future together. And that is what conferences like this is all about. Collaboration, working together to create a bold, new Caribbean. The world, as it starts to pay more attention, will recognize our strength, not only to learn from one another, but to learn to depend on one another, to fight for one another, and look out for one another, because no one else is going to put our collective efforts before theirs. We must work seriously at the removal of trade barriers to strengthen our collective stance in global affairs. And notice I said work. Action must follow talk. And today, we're doing more business, and we're doing less talk. So this is a great start. We have the opportunity to leverage this initiative and work as a united front to create jobs, increase trade, and raise the standard of living for our people. And I would tell you that in the past 2 years, the Bahamas has attracted more than $8 billion of new foreign direct investments to our shores. Regrettably, an insignificant amount of these investments come from the Caribbean region. So this today is an invitation to invest in the Bahamas, and an invitation for the Bahamas to invest in the rest of the Caribbean. We must indeed show confidence in our own countries before we can go to the world and truly declare that we are open for business. And with my background as an investment banker and a businessman, I happen to believe that much of what we seek through organizations like CARICOM and CTO can be advanced through private sector commercial collaborations. For example, we've been talking about air connectivity for decades. It's an issue between respective countries. But I believe that if we can get together in the same room, Bahamas Air, Caribbean Airlines, Cayman Airways, Inter-Caribbean Airways, in the same room, creating a plan with some private equity support or some multilateral agency support, we can create a plan, a flight plan, if you will, with commercial viability to resolve this vexing decades-old issue. In this room, I am told that we have 500 persons registered from 40 different countries, from 45 institutional investors, and I am told $160 billion of assets under their management. We are empowered by the sheer numbers here to make significant, tangible commercial investments to solve some of the problems that's been confronting our region for decades. So yes, we have an opportunity and an obligation as we seek investments to use our expertise to bring innovative and profitable solutions to many of the problems we face. As Caribbean nations, we share a wealth of knowledge and experience, and we must capitalize on this collective wisdom. Our universities and institutions can collaborate on research, sharing best practices, building a robust educational framework that addresses the unique needs of our region. Our unique cultural diversity is a treasure that sets us apart in the global community, where the creative industries can thrive. The only thing missing from our ingenuity, the only thing missing from our creative industries is investments. And wherever we go, anywhere around the world, whether it's Bob Marley's music, or Jerk, or Junkanoo, we have the sauce, and we have the flair, and we have the flavor at an international level that gets the attention of the world. Now we must see how we must commercialize this more as we have done in tourism. We must do so now in trade. We must attract more investments to the creative industries itself. By strengthening our bonds, we can bridge the gaps that exist between us, fostering unity, mutual respect, and understanding. And in doing so, we can address common challenges such as healthcare, poverty, disaster preparedness, and education collectively. The strength of our region lies in our unity, which can enable us to create social safety nets and systems that protect our most vulnerable citizens, ensuring that no one is left behind. And as we grow business, we will ensure the empowerment of our people to ensure that no one is left behind. The Caribbean region is not a collection of isolated nations. We are a part of a larger Caribbean family. Our destinies are interlinked, and our collective strength is greater than the sum of our individual parts. So to secure a brighter future for all, to secure a bold new Caribbean, we must band together, utilize our resources wisely, and strengthen our ties for economic, educational, and social development. It is not only our responsibility, but also our privilege to build a better tomorrow for our people and future generations. So again, I thank you for coming. I welcome you to the Bahamas. I hope that this conference exceeds your expectations. And I am excited that we can embark on this journey of unity and progress together as we build a bold new Caribbean. And my Ministry of Tourism team is here, and they would not be happy with me if I didn't tell you that it's still better in the Bahamas. Thank you. God bless you.
Better in the Bahamas, but out of many, one. Honorable Chester Cooper, thank you for reminding us of the goals of CARICOM: trade expansion, greater economic value, and dealing with external entities as one. The Bahamas, unfortunately, recently has lost a member of parliament, and he always would use Bob Marley's words, one love. And it's that one love that we hope will continue to carry us throughout the day. I do want to remind you that if you have not yet downloaded the app for the conference, now is the time to do that. We'd like you to go into the app this morning and just give us some feedback on the morning session so far. And so I want to encourage you to just click on the V-Air app to download it, to make sure that you're giving us feedback. Remember, we do have a prize for someone. So the more you engage with the app, the more likely you are to win that prize. Now, that being said, I am excited about our next presenter. He's our keynote speaker this morning, and the topic is really what is intriguing me. It's about the AI revolution. Is everyone familiar with that terminology, AI? Yeah? I get some blank faces, absolute blank faces. I don't know if it's the lights or it's you. Nevertheless, once this session is done, you will know it very well, and more importantly, know how it works here in the region and what we can do with it. So today's opening keynote is by Paul Alstrom. Over his career, Mr. Alstrom has directly participated in more than 90 venture capital investments, even sitting on the board of Ancestry.com. He's the managing director of Alta Ventures and will share on leveraging AI for economic development. His presentation is going to be virtual, so I invite you to look at our screens and, of course, to take notes, because we are very excited for what is to come. He can hear you in the room, so if you would be so kind as to give him a round of applause as they connect him to the virtual screen.
Good morning. Can everyone hear me? So I'm assuming that's a yes. Let me check here in my chat. Good morning. Can everybody hear me? I am assuming that's a yes. I haven't, if someone could just text into the web chat prompt if they can hear me, or give me a thumbs up. Okay, fantastic. Thank you. I'm very excited to be here with you virtually. I am so sorry that I cannot be there in person. Our family runs a cancer foundation, and last night, of all nights, we had our annual annual meeting with all the cancer patients and from the U.S. and around the world, and so my first duty is in supporting my wife in that and her efforts there as a cancer survivor. So that didn't give me enough time to fly. And we've checked many flight options, but I would have much rather been there with you. So I'm excited to give you an overview of how we see artificial intelligence changing the future. And I might even do some live demos for you. That might be very, very risky. So I'm going to share my screen and let's get going. So I've done it, by the way, since that bio was written, I've done 60 more investments over my career. I've invested a little over $1 billion into 150 tech companies, and some of them you might recognize. Ancestry was one of them, but most recently, one of my favorite investments is a company called Angel Studios. And in Angel Studios, we have a TV series called The Chosen, which is doing quite well around the world. And we have a movie in the theaters right now called Sound of Freedom, and we have a few more movies that are coming out in the next few months. So it's a reinvention of the model. We'll talk about in a second. So I asked the AI engine called Dolly to paint me a picture as if I was sitting there with you presenting. And so this is the graphic that they created, that the AI engine created for me. And I said, well, actually, I'm presenting the Caribbean. Could you put me in the Caribbean? So they created this one for me. And so, well, that doesn't really look like me. I guess maybe me as a younger person. And I just want to just triple check that you guys can hear me. So can you give me a thumbs up if that's the case? All right, so I will assume that's the case there. Sir Isaac Newton said, "I have seen further. If I've seen further, it's by standing on the shoulders of giants." And this is never been more true in the history of invention and innovation. He was talking about science, and as we have gone through the shifts in technology that have increased our ability to communicate, these platform technologies, starting from when we went from the stone and chisel to pen and paper, that was a huge jump in innovation. The printing press opened up the world to reading and different capabilities. And as we have expanded to the computer age, there's been massive advancements and rapid advancements. Cloud computing, which is the foundational technology, rather than have the computer on your desktop, you have it in the cloud. And the computing power in the cloud has allowed us to build companies faster and more cost effectively than ever. And what used to cost millions of dollars costs tens of thousands of dollars in order to have a layer of capabilities that we can build on, like, for example, with Amazon Web Services. And artificial intelligence is another layer of capabilities that we can build on top of the cloud. And so as we ready or not, artificial intelligence is here. Now, I'm going to just do I know I shouldn't do this, so it's probably not a great idea to do a live demo. but I'm going to do it anyway. You get to see my crazy. Okay, so let's jump ahead here, and I'm going to show. So this is ChatGPT. This is one of the artificial intelligence engines. And I'm going to ask ChatGPT, can you please write me a keynote speech on artificial intelligence? And then and can you make it relevant to the Caribbean? So spelling mistakes and all. Let's go. And so it's going to start writing me a speech. Embracing the winds of change, artificial intelligence in the Caribbean. Good morning, distinguished guests, colleagues, and friends. Today I'm both excited and honored to discuss the topic, and it will write me an entire keynote speech. So while it's writing away, let's come back to that in a second. I'm going to give you the keynote speech that I prepared, and let's see how my speech compares to the artificial intelligence writing a speech. And by the way, it will probably be better than mine. These are some of the technologies that I used in writing this speech. I used ChatGPT 4.0. That is the technology you just saw here. I use a technology called Dolly, Bard by Google, and Bing by Microsoft. So maybe you've seen some of the headlines that artificial intelligence will destroy education. Artificial intelligence is coming for your job. Data is the new oil. And then a concern about who's going to rule the future. So let's drill down on these headlines and see how does this mean towards economic development and job creation, and what does this mean to me? So these headlines are all true. In New York City, they banned ChatGPT because they were so concerned about cheating. Students were able to go on and write their papers just like you saw me write a second ago. Alarmed by chatbots, universities are revamping how they teach. Professor catches students cheating with ChatGPT. I feel abject terror. ChatGPT and the death of education, Harvard Independent. So you can imagine every time there's a new innovation or technology, we struggle and have difficulty grasping how that technology is going to impact our future. So I propose that rather than fear artificial intelligence, we should embrace it and embrace AI to accelerate a positive transformation in education. Now, I want to tell you that all of my graphics in my presentation were created by artificial intelligence. And I gave the artificial intelligence prompts to create the graphics, and they would create me multiple that I got to choose from. And so it is an absolutely amazing, amazing tool. And yes, there are people that should be concerned about their future, and especially keynote speakers. As it relates to education, one of the best tools in education is one-to-one tutoring. One-to-one tutoring gives a 2 standard deviation improvement to any type of student. And they call this the 2 sigma problem. So over here, this curve on the left is conventional education in the classroom. And you have something called mastery learning, and then you have one-on-one tutorial. One-on-one tutorials can take average students and turn them into exceptional students, and below average and make them average. So what if we could we could provide every student one-on-one tutoring? Could artificial intelligence deliver one-to-one instruction at scale? And the answer is yes. In fact, it's already happening. I'll give you a couple of examples. Khan Academy, founded over a decade ago, was first very fearful about how artificial intelligence would affect their online learning platform. And then they decided to embrace it and have created what they call Conamigo. And Conamigo, it has the ability to sit next to the student and train and educate them, and not tell them the answers, but help ask questions using the Socratic method, and also has a capability for the teachers themselves. And it gives the teachers the answers. And it is an artificial intelligence um, tutor that can provide personalized one-on-one education to every student. It's available online. It's free. It's at khanacademy.com, Khan. I'll give you another example of embracing artificial intelligence for education. Years ago, I worked with a good friend of mine named Adam Blum, and to identify and index every single educational video on the internet. We called this company Open Ed. So we aggregated every single educational video available, and then we identified how it related to educational standards. And we used machine learning to identify the videos, tag the videos, and we had human-assisted machine learning to go through this process. Machine learning is one of the steps of the artificial intelligence. And after we indexed all the videos, we put what's called an application programming interface, or we wrapped it in an API. And then we integrated all of those videos into all of the learning management systems out there. And then once they were fully integrated, from launch to sell of the company was less than 24 months, and we got offers from Google, Microsoft, and ACT to purchase that company, and we sold it to ACT. So it answers several of the questions that we'll get into in a second. But where does the content come from? The content can be all around you, and it really takes creativity to unlock that. There's another headline: is AI coming for your job? I thought this was the coolest. So I put that question into Dolly, and Dolly came back, said basically yes, and then they created this spooky picture of robots replacing us. And there are many jobs that will be replaced by artificial intelligence. I hope your job is not on here. In some ways replaced, in some ways enhanced. And I don't think in any way it's going to be replacing 100%, unless you're a medical coder. And my daughter is studying to be a medical coder right now. And she was very bummed when I told her that within 3 or 4 years, her job will be replaced by artificial intelligence. I met with the CEO of a very large US hospital chain, the largest in my area. And I was looking to bring international employees to work for them as remote workers. And as I met with the CEO and the head of innovation there, we had a very sobering moment when they said, "We don't want any of your international workers." I said, "What do you mean?" They said, "We're going to replace all remote jobs with artificial intelligence within the next 3 years." Very spooky. Now, let's not lose our heads. There are new careers in artificial intelligence that are being created, and most of these careers pay 6-figure incomes and above. So as you look at the future, part of the future will be reskilling ourselves to participate in that future. So research scientist, machine learning engineer, data scientist, data engineer, AI product manager, AI prompt engineer. What's an AI prompt engineer? So that thing that I just showed you a second ago, is I created a prompt. This is an AI prompt engineer. It's learning how to ask the questions so you get the answer. So let's see how our artificial intelligence is doing on the keynote. What is AI, and why should the Caribbean care? At its essence, AI refers to machines that can perform tasks that would require intelligence if done by humans. This could range from understanding natural language, recognizing patterns, or making decisions. Today, AI powers everything from your smartphone assistants to predicting hurricanes more accurately. For the Caribbean, AI isn't just a buzzword, it's a tool and a pathway to boost economies, enhance our educational systems, preserve and protect our unique biodiversity, and strengthen our resilience against natural disasters. It sounds like the deputy prime minister's speech. I mean, I wonder if he used AI in giving his speech and preparing his speech, or is AI smart enough to just to know that? So it sounds reasonable. And and now, by the way, sometimes AI hallucinates, and you can't trust everything AI says. But it's pretty astonishing just by doing a prompt. So I could be a prompt engineer, and I could ask important questions and get the answers out. All right, so I'm going to go back to my keynote because the AI is showing me up right now, and it's kind of embarrassing. We'll come back to my keynote, and I'm going to talk about an example of how to prepare for this future. Data scientist. Now, my son, Paul Jr., works for our family foundation, and he was at the top of his earning ability as he was running our video team for our Healthcare University, and he was making about $88,000 a year, pretty good money for a kid that just graduated from college, and then one day he said, "Dad, I'm quitting." I said, "Why?" He goes, "I'm going to go take an internship at $12.50 an hour." I said, "Let me get this straight. You're going to quit an $88,000 job, and you're going to go take an internship working for $12.50 an hour. Did you bump your head? Are you okay? Does your mother know?" And he said, "Dad, I've maxed out where I can go with my job, and computers are coming for my job. So I am going to go learn how to be a data scientist." I said, "What do you know about being a data scientist?" He goes, "Nothing. That's the point. I'm going to take an internship and I'm going to figure it out." So he went and took a job at a company to learn how to be a data scientist. And within a few months, he identified the key technologies that were required, taught himself 2 coding languages at a very, very rudimentary level, but he was using AI to teach him, and AI would help him program, and he would throw some ideas in there, and "Could you program this for me?" And AI would program for them. So he was using the AI to learn how to be a data scientist. And so he went from that job to moving on to the next job, where he was offered a position within 4 months to make $95,000 a year, because he went from this one company to the next one. And then from that company, he got a job working as the head data person at one of my companies. And I did not hire him, and I would not have recommended him. But wow, he's doing an amazing job. So he reinvented his career, and he got on a different ladder, the one that will take him much further than the job that he had previously. There's a saying that in the future, data is the new oil. And I think these graphics are absolutely stunning and beautiful. And this is one of the most true headlines that I have run across, where in the past we have built our economies on the carbon economy and extractive industries. And the information economy is here, it's scaling, and if we're not participating in the information economy, we will the world will pass us by. And my life and my career has been spent on investing and creating knowledge economies around the world. I was invited by the Mexican government to create the first venture capital fund in Mexico. And we're very excited. And Jenny and I moved with our 6 children to Monterrey, Mexico, and created Alta Ventures. And then we were invited by the Peruvian government to create the first venture fund in Peru. And one of my team members moved to Peru. And capital is a critical component of driving the information economies. And there's many industries that do not get created if risk capital, entrepreneur capital, venture capital is not present. And so if you think about, you have the factors of production for driving knowledge economy jobs are on innovation capacity of a region, which is deeply tied to education. How many scientists do we have, and coders, and patents are we creating? And then you have the entrepreneurship activity, which is the second one. How many new business starts? How easy is it to start a business in our area? And then the third is investment capacity. Innovation capacity, entrepreneurship activity, and investment capacity, and those tied together in high trust circles and generating critical mass of sophisticated investors, entrepreneurs, and inventors drive outcomes. And the fuel, the oxygen and the fuel, the oxygen of the people and the fuel is the data. And the data is feeding this new economy. So let's take a deep dive on data engineering jobs and what that looks like. And I'll give you a couple examples. So at the foundation is data collection. There's data all around us. My wife has a terminal cancer called multiple myeloma. She is doing very well. She's had 2 bone marrow transplants and a CAR T therapy and has amazing doctors. But we realized that this cancer keeps coming back. And we needed to do something to improve her odds of living what's beyond the median survival of 5 years. And so we started capturing data, not just her data, but data of her friends and peers, and scaling our ability to do this. We brought together a science team of engineers and data engineers, and we went on a roadshow across the United States, and we visited 50 US cities, knocking on doors and meeting with people that are cancer patients, asking if they would consider sharing their data. We spent the entire summer of 2018 doing this. We made T-shirts. It was like a rock concert, 50 cities, and it looked like we had a little rock band, our family, and we drove our Suburban across the United States. We spent 3 days in our beds back home that summer collecting data. And in doing that, we talked with 850 patients. Now, this doesn't seem reasonable, it seems, but this had not been done before in terms of capturing patients to share their data with each other, not dead patients, living patients. And so we spent that summer doing that. And then we realized how we're going to collect, clean that data and get it in. So we had a data cleaning team. And then we had engineers that helped transform that data and integrate that data into applications, and eventually created a whole system that allowed patients to share their data with each other and with scientists. And we built this system called Health Reconnect. Now, data sits around us, and it's just like oil. It's in the ground. You're going to have to do some work to get it out and clean it. And so as we drill down, there's data jobs in each one of these areas, and there's certain skills and tools that are required to do this. And so data collection, SQL, no SQL database, data cleaning. Python is one of the more important languages that my son had to learn in order to be able to clean the data and participate in this knowledge economy. Data transformation and scaling this and understanding Z-scores and how analytics work on the data. Data integration and warehousing, image processing, audio processing, data labeling and tagging, and data storage and management, and understanding the databases on the back end like Postgres, MySQL, MongoDB. And these are terms that all of the data scientists throw around. I know they might seem like Chinese or foreign language to us. Sorry if you speak Chinese, I don't. I speak Spanish though. But as we're looking at the capabilities of this new world, we're building on the cloud systems and storing it and partnering, and these layers work with each other. This is an example of how we were able to take this data from cancer patients, and we're able to match my wife's data, which she has 85,000 markers in her clinical trial record. And we're able to match it to the 850 open clinical trials using artificial intelligence, reading the doctor's notes, understanding her inclusion and exclusion criteria, and then mapping it to all the clinical trials, and then creating a list of clinical trials that she qualifies for. This is close to impossible for the average human to do this because of all the inclusion and exclusion criteria, accessing the records, understanding the hundreds of trials out there and the variables required to get into a trial. This was done in less than 5 minutes by artificial intelligence. But it was not possible without having the data behind the scenes. So you think about it, your patient record is on the left and the clinical trials on the right. And the computers do a much better job than we do of matching those two together and telling us which ones we could qualify for so we could get into those trials for um, life-saving treatments. I'll give you another example. This is a project that we're working on right now, taking the data of job seekers. I built a recruiting firm that can rehire in 140 countries around the world. It's called ISO Talent. And as cool as that is, one of the challenges we're running into is how to effectively match your skills, your abilities with the optimal job for you, regardless of where it sits on the planet. We hire for hundreds of companies around the world. And, and we realize that in order to do better matching, similar to the world of healthcare, we all have our unique DNA. What makes us unique? What skills do we have? Are we good at time management? Can we? By the way, I have these graphics are amazing, but you will learn that artificial intelligence doesn't know how to spell very well. And so as you look at some of these areas and you drill down, like, wait, it spelled technology wrong. And so it's one of the funny things I learned is that when AI will paint, it takes a lot of creative license and it hallucinates and it just makes up its own words. But pretend these are spelled correctly. This is the skill tree that you have. This represents you and all of your skills and abilities. And are you good at marketing? Are you good at public relations? And it puts it into a level. We can create a level and a hierarchy of your skills and abilities, and then we can match those skills. This is an application, and because I wasn't able to log in with my phone, we created the dating app for jobs. It's called Obra, and it's going to be hitting the app stores pretty soon. And we've been able to ingest millions of job seekers, about 3.5 million job seekers a month, and then hundreds of thousands of jobs. And then we match them. And you can swipe right if you like the job, you swipe left if you don't. And if you want to apply to that job, you swipe up. And over here on the next, once you've applied, the system will give you feedback on how you're doing. So you can apply to dozens of jobs. And as you're going through the interview process, the information flows back from the interviewer back into your app. And you can see how you're doing. If you're being scheduled, if they haven't even moved you forward in the process. I know this is one of the most frustrating things. And if you look at the different filters, you can click on what you're good at, and then with artificial intelligence, we're able to look at your resumes, have your interviews, ingest that information, and do what's called skill inference. And we can infer what you're good at. And then you can say, no, that's not true. This is true. And you can help create a better matching experience based on your skill tree. So in the future, each one of us will no longer have a resume, we'll have a skill tree. This is data. The data from the individual becomes more powerful as we aggregate the data and expand and work together to figure out how we can collaborate. Okay, let me give you another fantastic data example. Angel Studios. This is a reinvention of the Hollywood model. Our family has 3 missions: cure cancer, end poverty, and disrupt Hollywood. Now, my wife's job, her job is curing cancer, and she's doing a fabulous job and even has launched a cancer vaccine company. I work day to day on poverty and investing and creating knowledge economies around the world. Angel Studios is our side project. People say, okay, I can get poverty and maybe cancer, but you're never going to disrupt Hollywood. Well, Angel Studios leverage the wisdom of the crowd and the capabilities of thousands and hundreds of thousands of viewers like you to vote on content, leveraging data to make decisions on what content gets created. I know that sounds strange because most Hollywood executives don't care what we think and they build what they want and they call it art. But Angel Studios has now built one of the most profitable studios in the world. And we went from a raw startup to doing over $200 million in revenue this year. But what's extraordinary is that all of our movies are making money. And we have used data to figure out how to make money at all these, and using the wisdom of the crowds and leveraging it as capability. So when you think about where is the data, and oil and data is the new oil, you have to be creative. Okay, lastly, have I sufficiently freaked you out? Who's going to rule the future? And you're probably thinking, okay, I get it. It's the robots. Okay, we should probably just go back to the beach. And I knew I was a waste of time coming here today. And I want to tell you that that's not true. Steve Jobs said, here's to the crazy ones, the misfits, the rebels, the troublemakers, the round pegs in the square holes, the ones who see things differently. That was me growing up. They're not fond of rules. They have no respect for the status quo. You can quote them, disagree with them, glorify them, or vilify them. But the only thing you cannot do is ignore them, because they change things. They push the human race forward. And while some may see them as the crazy ones, we see genius. Because the people who are crazy enough to think they can change the world are the ones who do. I'm not guessing at this. I am positive that in the future, the most valuable asset we have will be our imagination, our ability to imagine the future. Because it's going to, if we can imagine it, it can happen. It can happen faster than we can think. And even beyond our own abilities, we can create concepts and ideas that can come to life very quickly. And growing up, I was the crazy one. I was the daydreamer in the back of math class, daydreaming what my optimal date would be like, as opposed to learning algebra, and then going and creating that crazy date with a helicopter and Rolls Royce, and and I would work all summer to mow lawns, to take this vision and put it out there, and spend all my money on my crazy ideas. And I believe the dreamers and the visionaries are the architects of the future, and have the ability to connect the dots in ways that we have not been able to connect before. I hope these ideas have been helpful to you. I want to thank you for inviting me to participate today. I don't know if there's an interaction section to answer questions, but I'll be glad to leave a few minutes if there is time to answer some questions. Thank you.
Thank you so much to Mr. Alstrom. Was everybody else fascinated by that presentation? Yes, it was excellent. So, Mr. Alstrom, we would like to ask some questions from the room, and so thank you for staying with us for a few more minutes. At this time, I would like to invite you, if you have a question for Mr. Alstrom, to the mics. We have them placed throughout the room. There are two at the front, and there is also one here in the middle, on my left to your right near this camera stand, which is at the center of the room, and one further to the right side in the middle of the room as well. So if there are questions, I will invite you to those mics, and as I prepare for you to come to them, Mr. Alstrom, I will ask you one of my own, confirming you can hear me.
Yes, I can.
Awesome. So you shared with us some personal stories about your daughter in coding, your son who went on to leave your firm and then come back at a higher salary level. He must be smart like his dad. And I just wondered, we are in this room, some of us from the Caribbean, some from around the world, looking for investing. In terms of investing in education of our children, do governments need to look at shifting the current educational models? I'm thinking about CXC. Here in the Bahamas, we do something for our younger children called GLAT. These are standardized testing, and curriculums are built around them. Will the current curriculums meet the demand for the future, or should governments start looking now at changing their budgets and the way that they educate our young people so they can take advantage of these jobs in the future?
Wow. You're not going to like my answer. So I was I believe I was educated and prepared for this world we're entering into right now. And I looked at my education as an accident, but I look at my education as as preparatory for a rapidly changing environment. And I do think our educational system globally is not adequately preparing the kids. Our educational system is preparing us to remember things and regurgitate facts and come back. And we get paid for and rewarded for being obedient and listening to the teacher. I was the kid that was always getting in trouble because I was asking the what if questions and what about this and how's this going to be utilized and how can my education work out here and trying to connect the dots. Kids are naturally curious. They have they're brilliant, and we dumb them down in our school systems. They come out as geniuses, and over time, we take what's fun for them, learning, and we call it work, homework. They're curious and they love learning, but now we say, "Oh, this is not fun. You have to do this," and we scare them about their future as opposed to encouraging them to ask questions and explore. I had a very unique education growing up. And I don't know how this happened, but I was one of those square pegs in a round hole, or round pegs in a square hole. I'm not sure which one it was, but when I was in 5th grade, they pulled me out of the traditional educational track and they put me into this another track, and they called it MGM, Mentally Gifted Minors. And I think it's kind of funny because I think every kid's a genius. But they just took some kids, and they had to take 30, and they took 30 of us out. We were in the California school system. They tried an experiment. And from the age of 5th grade, I got to choose my curriculum. I got to choose what I studied. And I didn't want to study math. And I'm not good at math today, by the way. And I did not want to study, some of my peers did, but I wanted to study creation. And I created a student newspaper at school. I said, I want to create a student newspaper. And they gulped and they let me take more than half my day, and we started writing stories. And I figured out how to work on a typewriter, lay things out in paper, put it on a mimeograph machine back in the day, copy it off, and created a student newspaper. I wanted to study Ecuador. I don't know why, I just did. And I went super deep, and I spent weeks researching Ecuador. I wanted to study the war in the European theater. And I created massive maps and mapped out the wars. And I followed my passion as a young student. What that did is it taught me that I could do anything. It taught me that I'm not constrained by the word no. And I can go create create opportunities. And over the past decades, I have been able to take this, childlike creativity and keep it. And it was not beat out of me in the school system. So I don't think our school systems are adequately preparing our children for this new future where creativity is going to be king, and where they need to have the self-confidence to know that they have the ability to change the world because they can, and not take no for an answer. And I know the systems are not built for that, and I don't know what the right answer is because I was given this blessing, but I do think I know you weren't going to like my answer, but I believe that the answer is yes. We need to radically rethink our education and allow kids to take deep learning, explore questions, and go further than they could. My son came to me the other day. He said, "Dad, can I get ChatGPT?" And I said, "Absolutely." And it can become your personal tutor and take you far beyond what I'm capable of teaching you. Okay, be careful what you ask me, but yes, I think we need a radical reset on our education system.
Thank you for that response. I hope you can stay with us just a few minutes longer, Paul. We do have 2 questions from the room. I will start here
Sure.
and then come to the back. I will ask you to just give us your name and maybe the organization you represent or the island that you're from, and then ask your question. Thank you. I think we're going to cue it in for you right now.
Okay.
Try one more time for me. Sorry about that, Paul. Just organizing some sound and audio issues
No
in
worry.
the room.
No worries.
Okay, I'll go to the question at the back as we work that out. Just give us your name and organization. Nobody at the back either? Okay,
Or
they're working on it.
maybe just come up to the stage and ask the question.
Sure. Would you like to join me on stage? That's perfectly fine. Thank you.
Let's improvise.
I should have asked ChatGPT. It would have responded in 5 seconds with that response, Paul.
Wasn't expecting that. Okay, good morning. My name is Dr. Dinothror Archer Cartwright. I'm here from the Bahamas, so I'm local. I'm also with Guardian Radio. I have a show called The Doctor's In. But question about, and I think you pointed out, a really good presentation. I like how you incorporated AI into your presentation. But you kind of pointed out some issues that I've had. I've had this conversation about AI and ChatGPT. I see you putting a lot of, and the world, putting a lot of emphasis as how this technology is kind of game-changing and will take certain jobs and everything. But how do you rely and get people to feel comfortable with a technology, one that I feel is only as good, or maybe not as good as its creator, which humans are flawed, and then, and makes mistakes? You talked about hallucinations. The AI hallucinating and making mistakes and not being able to spell and all of those things, which are, we expect humans to make mistakes, but how do you put that much comfort in a technology taking over all of these spaces? And aren't we going to require so much more like checks and balances just to make it even worthwhile? And do you think it's going to be worthwhile, or do you see a future where this kind of pans out after a while and we kind of go back to what we were doing before? Thank you.
That's a great question. Lovely question. Thank you. So first of all, we're not going to be able to put this genie back in the bottle. AI has arrived, ready or not, it's here. And there's so many levels and implications for it. We can be the Luddites that fight it, or we can embrace it and help it work for our good. Now, there are ways to train, and I'm going to share my screen for 1 second to answer your question, one of your questions. How do we control it, and how do we to manage it so it is not hallucinating? So this is something called vector databases. And so these are the leading 5 vector databases. You've never heard of them: Pinecone, Weaviate, Milvus. And these companies came out of nowhere in the past 3 years and have become billion-dollar companies. But what they allow us to do is to come and customize the artificial intelligence to meet the needs of a specific user, and drill it down and contain it and focus it and make sure it's not hallucinating, and train it on a very small subset of a model to solve the problem. So as you look at ChatGPT is just a generic general engine that's trained on the internet. But we can take data sets and train that and to make it work for us. Going back to this model, I wish I could do a live demo for you on this because it's so cool. And the first time I saw this, I cried. The impact that this has on patients and the accuracy is indisputable, because we're able to, behind this nice interface, drill down to say, why did you choose the CAR T cell therapy, this particular CAR T cell therapy for me? And it shows the inclusion-exclusion criteria, and it writes paragraphs describing the math of why it chose that criteria and how it came to that decision on hundreds of decision points. And then it writes a paragraph for you, and you click on that, and it drills down to the doctor's notes underneath. And it shows you the specific doctor notes that made up that paragraph, that made up that decision point, that aggregate to the decision points as to why this CD70 CAR T was a good fit for me as a cancer patient, and I'm going to take this and use this treatment, which costs $2 million, by the way, to save my life. But it's paid for by insurance or or sometimes the pharma companies will pay for this. They're between $500,000, $2 million for these treatments, and so you cannot make a mistake. So these vector databases allow us to train the models, drill down, and understand the specifics of why this decision was made. And so I think it's really important to not just accept it at face value, but we need to understand why. And that's just an example, but I think it's a pretty good example. And I think I don't know if you can push back on that, and I'm happy to hear some thoughts, but I don't know if that answered your question. But I do think that as you go into the domains, they're going to be more narrow and narrow, and the technology is going to play out in very specific ways that are verifiable.
Thank you for that, Mr. Alstrom. We do have 2 more questions from the room. Just quickly,
Sure.
Is the medical technology AI that you showed us that was able to match your wife to the clinical trials, is that open and available to the public, that AI that you've created there?
Yes, and I will show you. Hold on one second. I will share my screen. Okay. You can go to healthtree.org, and you can choose your cancer. Hopefully you don't have cancer, so you don't have to choose. But if you're a multiple myeloma patient, you can click down, and then you can log in. And let me just kind of just a brief overview. You can just scroll down here, but you can basically log into the system, and then it will access your medical records. We've integrated with 2,975 hospitals via an API. So like you log into your bank account, you log into your hospital. And we will basically log in, you log in, the system will go in, it will pull all of your records out, it will aggregate it from all of your hospital records, it will ask you lots of questions, over 100 questions. And then based on that information, it'll start giving you charts back and information and connect you with opportunities because of your specific data and your situation. So you can go to HealthTree, and this is live and operational for multiple myeloma patients. So you can click on multiple myeloma, and then it will drill down and it will show you the capabilities. There's a news site, lots of stuff here, but the answer is yes. That is live and working, and let me click on Cure Hub, and it has some very cool capabilities. It has what I call the twin machine. It will connect you with all of your medical twins that have the same cancer genetics as you and the same profile, maybe age, and it shows you all of your twins by lines of therapy. So that's very cool. There is a clinical trial finder that will connect with all your clinical trials.
Wow.
You can track your disease, connect your medical records. You can see the side effects that patients like you have and what do they do for those side effects. And this is what got us on the Today Show. Let me see if it's still up there. Yep, there we are. So there's Jenny and me. You can go learn about. We were on the Today Show, and they loved the twin machine. They thought it was genius. So yeah, it's live and it's up there.
Thank you for that. I do want to return to the questions in the room. Please proceed.
Hi, Paul. Do you hear
Hello.
me? Hi. So I'm Jose Jaramillo, Ecuadorian living in Argentina.
Qué bien, ¿cómo estás?
Yeah, and I own a software company. We make software on all over the world, and we're trying to do a educational platform right now using AI as a tool, as a base tool for everything. So do you have experience making some sort of adaptations of AI in the actual educational system? And if you have so, what was your experience and how can we push that change and not wait for everything to be changed automatically, right? How can we get the AI progressively in the classrooms with the students?
So I have not built an AI education company. We focus our energy on cancer and Hollywood and poverty, and the poverty area is mostly on investment opportunities and knowledge economy. So I think education, we have invested in education companies historically, but never done one in the AI education space. So my answer for that is, I'm not sure exactly what your question is, but how do you, so to create a successful startup company specifically, if you're looking at AI in education, I like to follow what Clayton Christensen calls disruption theory. And when we create companies, we look for the unloved, underserved customer, what Clayton Christensen calls non-consumption. So we go to areas where there is not people, these underserved customers that are not being served. And a lot of people would say, well, we don't do that. There's no opportunity there. We're going to go to where all the masses are. And I say, I go to where other people aren't. And so let me give you an example in healthcare and in the job market. In the healthcare market, people say, we're going to serve the pharma companies. We're going to go serve the hospitals. We're going to build products because that's where the money is. And we said, no, we're going to go the other way. We're going to go serve the patients. We're going to wrap ourselves around the patients. And we know there's something good that's going to come out of this. We just don't know exactly what it is, but we know that if we can make sure that that patient has everything they need and we are in their corner supporting them, there'll be goodness that comes out of this. And sure enough, as we aggregate their data and we're building out these communities, that data becomes super valuable to make decisions for the rest of the ecosystem, and nobody had access to it. There's literally no group in the world that has done what the Health Tree Foundation has done. And we did it out of love. I like to say, solve problems you love for people you love. Fall in love with the problem, don't fall in love with your product. Let me say that again. Fall in love with the problem, do not fall in love with the product. A lot of time we build things and we think it's super cool, and I want everybody to look at my new widget or my new gadget because I built it and I'm super proud of it. And if you look at the world through the lens of your gadget or your invention, you're going to be blind. You're not going to be able to see the world clearly. If you look at the world through the lens of the problem you're trying to solve for this unserved customer, everything opens up to you and you can see the world so much more clearly. So as you're solving these problems for education or cancer patients or job seekers, you wrap yourself around that problem, and then now everybody's a partner. Who can help you solve that problem? As opposed to, I built this and everybody's a competitor. This is the most important dynamic in terms of creating value that I can communicate to you. And it took me a long time to figure this out. I wrote a book called Nail It, Then Scale It. And we talk about it in my book, and my book's used at a lot of universities. I don't recommend it. It's a boring read. But if you're trying to create a startup, it might be helpful. But don't say I didn't warn you.
Okay, thank you so much for a spectacular talk, and happy to be here.
Yeah. Wrap yourself around the problem, go deep on it, and then as you're wrapping yourself around the problem in that classroom, you're going to start seeing things differently, and partnerships and ideas will pop out to you that were not possible before, and look for data in places you didn't expect and being able to connect the dots on that.
Thank you very much.
Thank you both.
Sure.
We do have another question, and then we will come to our final question here on the right. Please go ahead.
Good morning. My name is Karen Rose from the Digipreneur Company. The question I have for you is, well, I'll start by saying I love what you're doing with the Tinder for jobs and matching skill sets for companies. I think that's brilliant, and getting rid of the resume. The question I have is, if you had to do it all over again yourself, what are the skills that you're going to be learning and investing in to position yourself for the next economy or for the digital economy?
What are the skills I would be positioning? Well, I probably would have paid more attention in math class and the sciences. My brain just wasn't wired that way. And so I think we're each given certain geniuses. Each one of us have IQs and geniuses that are unique to us. What I would have done maybe a little differently is I would have tried to explore and understand my genius. Let me give you an example. You see, some of us are fishes and some of us are deer. And you go to a fish and you say, hey, I'm gonna put you on land here, and I want you to sprint all the way over there. And the fish is like, listen, I'm a fish. I don't know if you noticed that. I don't have any legs. No, you have to run and you have to catch up with the other deer. And then you take that deer and you drop it in the ocean. It's like, hey, now you need to be as good as the fishes. And you have to be able to swim. Like, I'm not really built for that. I have these little tiny legs, and they're not very good paddles, and I'm drowning here. And somebody help me out. No, you have to be as good as a fish. And so we take all these kids and people, and we put them, they look the same, but they have different capabilities. And then we feel bad about ourselves. Like, man, I am a terrible fish. I can only sink to, I'm a terrible deer or four-legged animal. I can't walk very well. Well, of course, because that's not how we're designed and built. Now, I think we can grow and expand our abilities and turn our weaknesses into strengths. I fully believe that. But sometimes you come pre-wired with certain abilities. So what I would have done differently, I would have better understood who I am and what my superpowers are and what they aren't. And I would double down on my superpowers while identifying my weaknesses and working on them, but not building a career around my weaknesses. And then over time, I can take some of those weaknesses, check them off, and pull them into my strengths category. But I need to have something I can fall back to. What is my core? What am I really good at? And so what I would have done differently, the first thing I would have done differently is a better understanding of who I was and what my capabilities are. I now know I'm a right brain thinker. I'm very creative. I have to really force myself to work on the left brain side. I know that I'm a visionary and I see things differently, and I can put variables together and give you a forecast of what the future is going to look like. I'm like a type ahead machine, like an AI engine, but I'm very good at that. I'm not very good at following instructions in a classroom, and I fail miserably. I'm completely unemployable because I see the world differently, and I continue to challenge the norms. And so I would have learned earlier that I have to go build my own companies as opposed to work for somebody else. That was not a great option for me. I tried and failed multiple times working for other people and realized that it's not going to be my career path. So number one is understanding who I was. I think that would have been very helpful, and understanding where my genius is and my capabilities are. And then also looking for what my weaknesses are and earlier on and start working on those. But I don't know if that's a helpful answer, but that's the number one thing I would have done differently.
That is helpful. Thank you.
Thank you. And our final question from the audience. Please give us your name.
Good morning.
It should kick in.
I can hear you. Mm-hmm.
Good morning. I'm Kizelle Jackson, author,
Good morning.
educator, humanitarian, and chairman of Global Asset Management. While I sat and listened to you,
I love your coat, by the way. It's beautiful.
Oh, thank you.
It's beautiful.
While I sat and listened to you, first of all, I want to say thank you. Thank you. Why? Because you have defeated the ant, automatic negative thoughts. You have also reached out beyond, and I would say maybe you are just a few light years ahead. We don't say crazy. What I say, maybe you're fringing on neo-Marxism. You challenge status quo, and many of us inside here, we came to Caribbean Investment Forum, but we first must understand that the I from the investment starts with us first, I. The I, because, sir, you may not fully understand the culture of the Caribbean, because we have a colonial history. We are unique. We are all a migrant populace. In this forum, I would really like to see a level of human capital empowerment, empowering the human mind, starting with every child. Because of our history, there is a form of ethnocentrism. I wouldn't say that we are Luddites, but we do not have that self-belief to think that we can, to think that we are as good as or even better than. Now, it starts with a collective consciousness of who we are. And when you went into your family history and your story was one to inspire. You didn't follow the norms and the rules that society put in front of you to say, this is the way, walk in it. You created your own footprint. Now maybe it is time for us as a region to unify and create our own footprint, because collectively we are stronger together. Now, when you spoke about the education system, I agree with you, because totally our education system has failed us. Has failed us why? Because education was also a tool used to have slaves in subjection. That even many years after slavery, there's still a form of mental enslavement that the Caribbean populace is suffering from. When we are talking about AI and technology and the infiltration of this new era, it has opened the mind and the possibilities are limitless of every child because of the level of connectivity and because of the age of information. What I would like to see that you do more of, this is my request to you, is to really invest in the culture of the young children of our Caribbean region, using AI and using technology to create positive mindsets of who we are, who they are, and who they can be. So I thank you.
Well, thank you. Thank you for the comments. And I have a couple of thoughts on that. First of all, most of us are immigrants, forced or circumstances forcing us. Our family came over from Europe to the United States, and we joined the Church of Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saints and came across, and it turns out our religion wasn't very popular, and we were hunted and chased across the United States, and ended up leaving the United States. We went to Mexico. There was even an extermination order that was okay to kill the Mormons in Missouri by Governor Boggs. That wasn't actually eliminated until 1987, I think. So we stayed away from Missouri for a while. And so we all have our chains and our history that can hold us down. I say we need to throw those things off and let them go. And I think culture is a big issue. I get it. But we're all of us are children of God. And as we think of who we are, I think we can reframe our potential because of who we truly are. And I believe that. I was blessed to grow up in a loving home with mom who didn't like saying no. She loved saying yes, and she only said no if she had to. I know that's unique. But even in that environment, we can still, create our own challenges and our own cages that hold us back. So I think that it's just a decision that we're going to make. Are we going to let our past hold us back, or are we going to move forward? I've noticed that, and as I've operated, and I've been to the Caribbean, I've been to Barbados. I spent many trips to Jamaica. I love the people of Jamaica. I've spent my life working in Latin America, from Argentina. I spent 2 years in Ecuador, in La Costa, soy mono. I lived there for a while, and we lived in Mexico for several years. And there's a mentality, and it's not just a Latin America or Caribbean. There's a human mentality where the crabs pull the crabs back into the pot, and we're not happy for other people's successes. That's the first cultural norm we need to break down. We need to celebrate and truly be happy for each other's successes. And I like to say love is the killer app. If we can get to the point where we truly are happy for the success of our brothers and sisters, we've broken a barrier already.
Well
And
said.
we want their success as well as we want our success. And when that happens, there's a huge breakthrough in innovation, and the thoughts and ideas will flow. I'll give you a very brief example. My brother died of leukemia in 19 years ago, AML. He had 6 kids, 5 boys and a girl. He was 33 years old. After he died, I came up with this idea how we could leverage data to help cancer patients. And then David had passed away, and I thought I was going to be building this to make some money because I thought this is a brilliant idea. We could aggregate the data, and it will change the world. And nobody would help me because nobody wanted me to run away with that prize and capture that data and make the money. So everybody was pulling me back, and I couldn't get any critical mass. In fact, one doctor came to me and said, "It's because of people like you, there's no cure for cancer." And I'm like, whoa. And tell me about that. He said, well, you're out doing your own thing and you're not collaborating. I thought deep and hard about that, and I stopped what I was doing at the time. 6 years later, my wife was diagnosed with another terminal cancer. My brother lasted about a year. And so we were kind of freaked out. And after she did her second bone marrow transplant, the only thing I cared about was curing Jenny. So I didn't have any economic motivation. I was motivated by love. And what can I do to cure my wife and people like her that have this cancer?
Mr.
And
Elsa.
so, go ahead.
Yes, thank you so much. I think the idea of being motivated by love is the perfect way for us to conclude this portion of the segment. I think you gave us that indication earlier when you said fall in love with the problem. So we want to thank you so much for your time today. If you're able to pull up that slide again of how we can reach you, I think people in the room would benefit from that. But we're very grateful for the time that you shared this morning. Thank you so much.
All right, well, thank you, and I apologize about any communication challenges here, but you can hit me at Twitter, at Paul Ahlstrom, Paul Ahlstrom, that's at Paul Ahlstrom, and email is paul@altaglobal.com.
Thank you again. Let's give him a final round of applause. And at this time, I would like to invite Dr. Dami Sanan, Dia Maharaj, Executive Director of the Caribbean Export Development Agency, Nigel Baptiste, President and CEO of Republic Financial Holdings Limited, Karen Yipchuk, Vice President, to the stage for a Memorandum of Understanding signing. And all government ministers present, whether you are a government minister from throughout the Caribbean or the Bahamas here, please join us on the stage. We are going to be signing a Memorandum of Understanding between Caribbean Export Development Agency and the Republic Bank Limited. And we would just like your attention for this continued work as part of understandings like this. So let's give them a round of applause as they make their way to the stage so that we can have that Memorandum of Understanding signed here in your presence.
Good morning, everyone. While our principals make their way on stage, I would just like to recognize that Caribbean Export in March of 2022 signed an MOU with Republic Bank Limited to really partner and work together to help the private sector firms in the Caribbean region grow and become more export competitive. Since we've signed that MOU, I'm proud to report that we've had several collaborations since then. We had 2 workshops in Trinidad and Tobago and 1 workshop in Guyana focused on energy management, export marketing, and using the EPA, the Economic Partnership Agreement, as a tool for exporting. And we're proud today to extend that MOU for another 2 years because of all these successes that we face. So join us in congratulating the Caribbean Export team as well as the Republic Bank team.
Let's give them another round of applause. It is through such actions that we continue to grow and develop the Caribbean region. Congratulations to Caribbean Export and to Republic Bank Limited. And thank you so much to all of you for attending the morning session, for those who asked questions, for those who will use the conversations this morning to guide conversations throughout the day. We do want to invite you to take a coffee break, but I do want you to be back within 30 minutes. We're going to get our next session started at exactly 11:10 a.m. And so we invite you to take a coffee break. If you are interested, you can check out the exhibitions in Imperial Ballrooms B, C, and D. So that's right next door once you walk out and turn to the right. And for those who purchased VIP tickets, welcome to our VIPs. There is a VIP lounge set up for you in Casa D'Angelo, and so we encourage you to visit that. Again, please use the app. Review the morning session with the Honorable Deputy Prime Minister by going to the poll, and also, of course, use the app to set up business meetings and to connect. We will have a prize before the end of our conference to award to the person who's been most engaged with the app, so we encourage you to do that, and we will see you here again at 11:10 a.m. Thank you.